Hi everyone, my name is Harrison with the Luxury Pergola. Today we're talking about installation of a motorized drop shade. We do have a different video that talks about the installation of our manual drop shade, but we're talking today about the installation of the motorized shade. We will have a separate video that goes through troubleshooting in case at the programming stage you have some sort of problem, or if you've had the shade installed for a little while and you have some sort of issue, we have a troubleshooting video as well you can reference. And then we have a third video that will go through smart controls, and that way you can make sure that you hook it up to your Bond or your smart control function so that you can operate everything from your phone. So check those videos after you get the shade installed. So for now, we're gonna go ahead and get started here. You'll be able to see, first thing that happens is you're gonna have a box that shows up. It's a big, long box. It's a 20-foot drop shade. There are gonna be a lot of these bands that are holding the edge protectors on. Go ahead and cut those bands off. Obviously make sure you don't cut into the box itself, but that's pretty self-explanatory. Just cut those off. The edge protectors are long, heavy, and big, so throwing away the cardboard is gonna be the only semi-tedious part of this. So as we speed through here, let's see, we just go ahead and rip it open. Okay, once we take it out, you'll see we've got the actual drop shade itself that we take out. When we cut it open, you'll see that the big thing to do here is to make sure that you don't put your blade facing the powder coat. You don't want to cut into the powder coat. The saran wrap or the wrap around this is pretty tight. So just make sure when you're doing that, you're very careful with where your blade is and how it's angled so that you don't cut into the fabric and you don't cut into the powder coat. The fabric is obviously worse than the powder coat itself. So make sure you don't cut into either of those things. Go ahead and cut the wrapping off. It might take you a little bit of time. As you can see, we're really careful. When you're cutting it off, the tracks are saran wrapped to the actual cassette itself. So make sure you grab those as they would fall off the cassette as you start to unwrap it. So once we cut all that off, you'll see we remove all the foam, get rid of all the trash, and then you're left with the actual shade unit exposed. I hold up here, this is the wire that comes out of one end. It will come out of the right side of your shade. So as you look at your finished pergola, the shade is facing you on the outside. The wire will go on the right-hand side always. It will come with a 24-foot long pigtail. You can see there, I'm holding it. It's just exposed wires, that's a pigtail. So it will come with that, not a plug, because you need to actually wire the 110 volt wire itself to a power supply of some sort, and then that power supply will go back to your breaker, in theory. This is not built with a plug because you shouldn't have it plugged in the gutter system of the unit. So you have to wire it into a waterproof enclosure, much like our single waterproof connector that we ship with the unit, just a 3-prong version of it instead of a 2-prong version of it. So I show off that wire. It's 24 feet, so it should give you enough room to get most of the wires in the same spot to wire them all together. If you buy multiple shades, we'll talk more about multiple shades a little bit later. If you lift up this hem bar, you'll notice that it actually falls into the cassette. So just keep that in mind. The hem bar can fall into the opening of the cassette, so just make sure when we're rotating it now to make sure that that doesn't happen, and to give us some room to be able to see the actual measurement of where the wire is. This is one of the big things that's different when it comes to motorized shades. So the wire itself is coming out the back side of the cassette, which means you need to drill a hole in the beam through the outside face of the beam and through the inside face of the beam for that wire to go all the way through the unit and into the inside of the frame. So I'm measuring here where that wire is. It's 1 inch in from the outside of the unit, and it is also 2 3/4 inches up from the bottom of the cassette. You'll see a little bit later where exactly that is on our unit. Thankfully, our unit is both helpful in locating that line because it's the edge of your beam is 1 inch in from where the drop shade ends. So super convenient from that standpoint. You'll see that a little bit later. So we'll go ahead and drop this down. We'll pull up the tracks themselves and we'll get the tracks ready to go. Same thing here, unwrap the tracks, try not to cut any of the powder coat. Okay, after we unwrap the tracks, you'll see I'm holding up here some fasteners. It comes with these supplied fasteners. Those are the ones you should use. There are 8 total fasteners, 4 per track. That's what you're gonna end up using to mount it to our posts. And then I'm real quick measuring the drop shade itself and then measuring the tracks. Before I stand it up and get it all in place, you wanna double check that it is the right measurement. So the drop shade itself, the measurement of that is going to be 5 inches on each side, or 10 inches total, less than the unit size. So ours is a 20-foot unit, that's 240 inches, minus 10 inches. Our drop shade should be 230 inches. I measure it, I double check, yes, this is 230 inches. We're good to go ahead and install it. And then measure your drop shade tracks themselves. You can measure them. You also can hold them up against the unit, which is what I do here. Just hold it up. That track should set at the bottom. Basically, the bottom of it should sit on top of the base collar, and the top of it should stop in line with the bottom of your beam, or what looks like the top of your post. After we've double checked everything, we're gonna go ahead and drill through these tracks. You're gonna drill if you see on the left side of my screen here, you'll see these tracks, these smaller looking tracks. Those are screw covers. Make sure those are not installed. You'll see there's a recessed portion of the track itself that I'm drilling through. So you drill through the recessed portion, through one wall, and then through the bottom side of that track as well. You can see it better from this angle. So that's, the drill bit is actually in that recess there. You're drilling through that. It will then hit a hollow space, and then you drill through the other side. Yep, like that. Repeat the same process on the other tracks. Again, you have 4 screws you're gonna be using per track, so just space them out evenly. Top, semi-middle, semi-bottom, bottom. Then you go ahead and bring your track up into place. I am marking it just to double check that the top of my track is around where it needs to be. Now in this case, you're seeing I'm double checking that, 6 inches in from the outside face of my post, which is 1 inch in on the drop shade, where that lines up. And you'll see real quick here, it lines up with the outside face of your beam. So you can see there's a seam right here where the beam and the post meet each other. That is exactly where the wire goes. So that is both helpful in terms of locating and semi not helpful because you're gonna run near the inside of the post, mounting part of the post, basically the wall of the post. So all you really have to do is measure 2 3/4 inches up from the bottom of the beam, and then in line with that seam there, and that's where you drill your hole. So drill your hole. It is a 3/8 bit. So when you drill this, it's a 3/8 bit. You might find, you saw that the drill twisted there a little bit in my hand. Okay, once you drill through, then you're gonna drill through the other side. Once you drill through that side, I would spend some time just cleaning out that hole. You want it to be as clean as possible. You don't want ragged shavings everywhere on that hole. And you might wanna widen it a little bit as well because it's just gonna make it easier. So I just tilt the bit a little bit just to widen that hole a little bit larger than 3/8 just to make the wire a little easier to feed through. I double check that it's all the way through. Those are the fasteners, 4 per track. The fasteners themselves use a 5/16 bit that was included with your Pergola to install them. See, our senior operations manager now is helping us out. We're gonna go ahead and spin this around. Putting the shade up is the only portion that I highly recommend you have 3 people on there. 2 people on a motorized version of this unit is probably too few. I would almost always have 3 people to stand the unit up. So what I'll do is go ahead and feed the wire through while it's still on the ground so that it's partially through, get it all the way through the unit and in the inside. You can see I feed it through. You might need to twist those wires together to make it easier. You're gonna leave enough slack so that you can still put the tracks on the actual drop shade itself and still stand it up in place. So don't feed a bunch of it through because you still have to stand it up. Now you can see the track here as we slide the tracks on. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your cassette, you're gonna slide your tracks on both sides, and then you're gonna stand the whole thing up in place. So when you slide the tracks on, you wanna make sure that you have the fabric slid into the actual vinyl insert inside of the track. If I rewind that, you can see there's a part that's bouncing around in there. It also has a notch, like a V-notch. That tells you it's the top. So the V-notch goes to the top. You can see that V-notch is in a vinyl or plastic insert, and that's what holds onto the zipper here. And then as I go ahead and slide it on, I double check without putting it inside the aluminum portion. I double check that that fabric is caught inside there, and then I slide the actual track into the aluminum insert as well. Now as you stand it up, this is the big part. As you stand it up, make sure that you have it secure. This is why 3 people is helpful, not just in terms of weight, but you wanna make sure that down here at the bottom where it's sitting on the base collar, it's not gonna slide off both sides. You can, in theory, set it away from the base collar and then lift it up on top of the base collar. I prefer to set it on the base collar and then tilt it up, because if you try and then lift it afterwards, what you don't want to do is any racking issues, because that aluminum insert you saw before that you put inside that track can break off if you put too much torque load on it. It's not supposed to handle these big twists and crazy bends. So that aluminum insert you're looking at right there, you want to make sure that that doesn't have a whole lot of load issues on it. Like, you don't want to be twisting it, you don't want it to fall. It will break and you'll need a new end cap, and you'll be asking me for a new end cap. So it happens every so often, things happen, but double check you've got it. Everyone's got their hands on it. You can see we're very careful as we stand it up in place and check the bottoms, make sure the bottom isn't gonna slip. And then we put it up in the right spot. And then at this point, as two people are holding it in place, you go ahead and feed that wire through from the backside. See, I'm feeding it all the way through. Then you pull the shade back a little bit, push wire through, and set it on. Easy peasy. Now all you have to do is just screw in the actual tracks onto the post. Highly recommend as you're screwing it through the tracks into the post that you pre-drill first. Otherwise, what's gonna happen is the screw's gonna catch onto the track. It's not gonna start pulling the track away from the post before it's even drilled through the post. So pre-drill through the post, then put the screw in. Pretty simple. Follow the same process on all sides here. Keep repeating for all 8 screws. Okay, next step, let's go ahead and put on the screw cover. So this is just to hide the screws that you just put in place. Now, this is huge. This is like our slat walls. When you put the screw cover on, you wanna make sure that it is starting at the right spot. So it needs to sit at the bottom. Make sure it's not slightly shifted up as you start hammering it on, because peeling it off is usually gonna damage or break this thing. It's relatively thin and it's a very tight fit. You wanna make sure that if you start at the top, that it is perfectly even at the top. If you start at the bottom, it's perfectly even at the bottom, and then work yourself one direction. Then you just go ahead and hammer it on. Okay, now we get to wiring the unit. So I recommend using something like a single waterproof connector. You can see this is like a little pill type thing. We use a similar version of this for our unit. We do not provide this with the shade itself, because I don't know how many shades you're gonna buy or how you want to wire them. You can use something like this. You could use several other different products out there. You could be wiring it in the beams. You could be doing some sort of switch mechanism. And there's any number of ways you could wire these things. Here you're gonna see we're gonna wire it using that sort of connector. So, okay, here the only thing is gonna be set the wires in the gutter. If you're using the gutter as a chaseway, if you're using the beam as the chaseway, then you'll have already drilled out your holes to run the wire through the beam cavity itself, and then go ahead and put it where it needs to go. In our case, we're having it feed all the way through, and then we're pulling the wire out the bottom, and then we have our electrical connection up there in the gutter. We pull the wire out at the bottom, and then we actually put a plug at the end of ours to plug it in, because it's a display unit. Most of you will have it hardwired and not plugged in somewhere. But again, I mean, that's up to you. In theory, if you want to have it plugged in, you can do that. All right, next is gonna be programming. This is the fun part. So seeing the whole thing work. You're gonna pull out your remote. It's gonna be a Software remote. You're gonna have a little manual in there. I threw that, you didn't need it for now. And then you pull out the remote itself. You'll see this thing that I'm holding on the back side there with that 3M tape. That's actually to mount it to a wall. So you peel off that, stick it, and then you can mount it on a wall. The remote itself has the up button, the down button, and the my button. We're gonna wake up the motor first. Up button obviously sends it up, down button sends it down, and the my button stops it. Rewinding here. Okay, first thing you're gonna do is wake up the motor. Once it's plugged in, within a certain time frame, I think within about 5 minutes or so, you have to wake up the motor, otherwise you might need to unplug and replug it in, okay? Wake up the motor by going to your channel that you're gonna program the motor on. In our case, this is one unit on a single channel remote, so you don't have to worry about channels. If you buy multiple shades, you will need to program each shade on a separate channel so that you can control each of them independently. At the bottom of the 5-channel remote, there's a little button you can press. You press it once, it'll flash to tell you what channel you're on. You press it again, it will switch to the second channel. Channel 1 is on the left, channel 2 channel 3, channel 4. Channel 5 is when all 4 lights are lighting up. That is the 5-channel remote. So if you had multiple shades, you would in theory wire 1, program 1, unhook that one from power, wire the second one, switch to channel 2, program the second one, unhook that one from power, wire the third one, switch to channel 3, program the third one, and same thing for the fourth one. If you wanted all of them on the same channel, let's say channel 5, you want all your drop shades. 1, 2, 3, or 4 shades, you want them all on the 5th channel, then you would go to the 5th channel, you would go to each individual channel, flip to the back, hold the program button, it will jog, the motor, or the actual shade will jog, then you'll switch to channel 5, hold the program button on the back again, and it will add that shade to that channel. That would be part of our troubleshooting. If you accidentally do it incorrectly, if this is your first time, watch the troubleshooting video probably before you start doing multiple shades, would be my recommendation. So for single channel, super easy. All you have to do is just wake up the motor real quick. You can see it jogs. You saw it go up, down, and then back up. That's a jog. Then you're gonna check the direction. You hold the down button, make sure it goes down, hold the up button, make sure it goes up. If it didn't go the correct direction, you hold the my button in the middle, it will jog, and that means that it's now switched. So you can see I'm holding the up button, it's going down button, it's going up, that's not right. So I hold the my button again to make sure it goes back to what it originally was, which is down, up is up. Okay, once I have that in the right spot, you push up until you bring the shade to its what you want as the upper limit, okay? Upper limit meaning at its highest point, that's where you want it to stop. So I'm holding up until it gets to its upper limit. And then that, in my case, is the hem bar basically right up next to the cassette. And then you'll see I hold my and down simultaneously, not one before the other, both of them. I click both of them simultaneously. And the shade will go down on its own. Okay, it will keep going on its own down until basically you tell it to stop. Occasionally the motor will actually stop on its own and then you'll hold the down button until it gets to where it wants to go. Otherwise it'll keep going on its own until you tell it to stop. Then you need to put it to its furthest down spot. So in our case, it's the top of the base collar, which is the furthest down it goes. There will be a 3 3/4 gap from the concrete slab to the shade itself. If you have base collar, if you don't want to use the base collar, in theory, you could order the shade slightly larger and remove the base collar, but then you have the fasteners, the concrete anchors exposed. There is no way to notch those base collar to allow the drop shade through, because then they wouldn't stay on the actual post. They have to be all 4 corners to stay on the post. So that's where it's gonna go. You're gonna do the reverse of the thing you did at the upper limit. So now that you're at the bottom limit, you're gonna hold up and my simultaneously, which will say, hey, this is my bottom limit. This is as far down as I want you to go. So you hold both simultaneously until the shade starts going up on its own, which it will then do. It will go all the way back up to its original upper limit, what you set first. Once it gets to that upper limit, you're then gonna hold the my button. The motor will jog. Once that happens, you flip the remote over, and you use a pencil to hit the program button on the back side. You hold that until the motor jogs. Now you're done. Now it should be able to hit the down button. It'll go all the way to the bottom. If you want to stop it, you hit the my button. If you want it to go back up, you hit the up button. It will go all the way to the top, unless again, you stop it with the my button. So down, all the way down, up, all the way up. My stops it anywhere along its current travel. So then, yeah, you can see the shade here now that we have it all set up. Once you hit the down button, it goes all the way down to the bottom. Gives you a nice coverage, external mount, beautiful drop shade. This is a solar mesh drop shade that we put on this unit here. So we'll hold out 95% of the sunlight, as well as 95% of the wind in theory, which is why for these units, I have some of these units on my house. If it gets over 25, 30 mile an hour wind load, it's not that the shade is gonna have any trouble, it's that it starts scaring me because the shade starts flapping like a sail, because that's a lot of wind, that's a pretty heavy storm. So at that point, I always raise it in those heavy storms. But you can look up all the information in terms of warranty, wind load, and everything else on our website. But that is installing a motorized shade. Hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully you get to enjoy it for many years to come and it transforms your outdoor space. Thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions about motorized shades or you want to check out our website, check it out down below, theluxurypergola.com. Thanks.